Hi everyone, welcome back to Russian for Beginners. Today we're going to be covering the dative case. So we'll cover declining nouns in the dative, prepositions that govern the dative, words that are often used with the dative like нужен, надо, нравиться, надоело, and so on and so forth. So if you've been confused about these things in Russian, then you've come to the right place. And let's just jump straight in. The dative case serves a few specific purposes in Russian. First, it is used to express the indirect object of a sentence, that is, the recipient of an action. For example, in the sentence, I wrote a letter to my friend, I is the subject, wrote is the verb, a letter is the object, my is the possessive pronoun, and friend is the indirect object. So in Russian, if there's a possessive pronoun or an adjective which characterizes the indirect object, so something that agrees with the indirect object, then this also declines into the dative case, as we can see here. So я писала письмо, I wrote a letter, моему другу, to my friend. The second use of the dative is to talk about feelings and emotions. So it is used in impersonal constructions, usually adverbs. So for example, ему грустно, ему грустно. And if you want to learn more about adverbs, I've also made a video on that and the link is here. So the sentence he is sad, ему грустно in Russian, you can literally read it as it is sad to him. And you could think of him being the recipient of the emotion. Ему, to him, грустно, it is sad. But obviously you don't translate it as that, you just translate he is sad. The third use of the dative case is to express age in Russian. So you're probably familiar with this already. So you would say сколько ей лет? How old is she? Сколько ему лет? How old is he? Сколько мне лет? How old am I? Or сколько тебе лет? How old are you? And so on. So you always use the dative there to express age. The fourth use is to say what you like or need using the words нравиться and нужно. So here we have an example. Тебе нужна помощь. Now помощь is a feminine noun, so нужно agrees with помощь here. As you can see, it has a on the end, and that's because it's feminine. Нужна помощь. So it is necessary help to you, or help is necessary to you. Тебе нужна помощь. And we'll look at the word нравиться, to like, in a lot of detail later on in the lesson. So lastly, the dative case is used after specific prepositions which govern the dative case or require the dative case to be used. And we'll spend quite a bit of time towards the end of this lesson going through how to use those prepositions with the dative. So here we have two examples. Он подходит к зданию. So к is a very common one with the dative, and по is also a very common one. So он подходит к зданию means he is approaching the building or going towards the building. Мы идем по улице. We are walking along the street. And yeah, we'll go into a lot more detail on that later on in this lesson, so don't worry. Hard-ending masculine nouns, or masculine nouns that end with a hard consonant, such as magazine, will take u in the dative singular and am in the dative plural. So magazine will become magazinu in the singular, and magaziny will become magazinam in the plural. Let's take a look at some examples. Мы подошли к магазину. We approached the store. Я хожу по магазинам каждый день. I go shopping every day. So that's literally я хожу, I walk, по магазинам, around stores, каждый день, every day. Now the reason it's in the dative here is because of the prepositions к and по, which govern the dative case and which we'll discuss in greater detail towards the end of the lesson. Soft ending masculine nouns in Russian, that is, nouns ending in I kratkaya or a soft sign, will take softer endings in the dative. So instead of U and am, as we saw in the previous slide, we'll have you and yam. So muzei becomes muzeu, and in the plural, muzei becomes museum, museum. Similarly, calendar will become calendariu, and in the plural, calendari will become calendariam. Now let's look at some examples. So, Anna подарила музею картина. She donated a painting to the museum. And the museum is in the dative case here because it's the indirect object of the sentence. Now the second sentence is Мы весь день ходили по музеям. We walked around museums all day. And again, you can see that preposition по, which governs the dative and which we'll talk about in greater detail later. Neuter nouns that end in o, such as общество, decline in exactly the same way as hard-ending masculine nouns, such as magazine, which we looked at before. So you'll add o to the stem to form the singular and am to the stem to form the plural. In the example sentences we have here, the dative case is used because of the nouns угроза and польза, which both govern the dative case. And that's something we'll discuss in more detail later on, so for now just focus on the formation of the nouns in the dative case. Он угроза обществу. He is a threat to society. Я хочу принести пользу обедневшим обществам. So обедневшим means impoverished, and that's also in the dative case, but that's an adjective, so we'll look at that in another lesson. Обедневшим обществам. Neuter nouns that end with y have the same endings in the dative case as soft-ending masculine nouns, such as muzei and calendar, which we looked at before. So instead of u and an, we'll add you and yan. The word moria, meaning sea, will become moriu in the dative singular, and in the dative plural, it will become Mariam, Mariam. Remember, the stress will not be on the o anymore, and therefore it sounds more like an a, Mariam. So in our example sentences, Anna шла к морю. She was walking towards the sea. Мы плавали по 7 морям. We have sailed the 7 seas. And again, it's because of those prepositions к and по that the dative is necessary here. Hard-ending feminine nouns, that is, nouns that end in a, will add ye to the stem to form the dative singular and am to form the dative plural. Here we have the word sestra, meaning sister, as an example. So that will become sestria, sestria. And in the plural, siostry, sisters, will become siostrum, siostrum. Let's look at some examples. Моей сестре нравится смотреть телевизор. My sister likes to watch TV. Я написала письма сестрам. I wrote letters to my sisters. So in the first sentence, sestra is in the dative case because of the verb нравится, which we'll cover later on in this lesson. And in the second sentence, siostry is in the dative because it's the indirect object of the sentence. Soft-ending feminine nouns are a bit more complicated than masculine and neuter, but don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. So let's start with the plural, as that's a bit more straightforward. As with all soft-ending nouns in Russian, in the dative plural, it will just end yam. So площади will become площади. And тети will become тетям. Now for the singular. If the feminine noun ends in a soft sign, such as площадь, then you'll remove the soft sign and add the long E. Площадь becomes площади. And if the noun ends in ya, such as тетя, then you'll remove the ya and add ye to the stem to form the singular in the dative case, which will be тетя. So let's look at some example sentences. На пути к площади мы болтали. So on the way to the square, we were chatting, or we chatted. Я собрал вещи и уехал к тете Ане. I collected or packed my things and left for Aunt Anna's house, or went to Aunt Anna's house. So again, we have the preposition к, which governs the dative case and which we will soon be discussing. So here's just a summary of the declension of nouns in the dative case. As you can see, the plural is quite straightforward. If the noun has a hard ending, then it will end on, whereas if it's a soft ending noun, then it will end yan. Hard ending masculine nouns and neuter nouns will take the u ending, whereas if they're soft ending, then it will be you instead. Then, as we've just gone through, feminine nouns that are hard ending will take ye in the dative singular, and if the feminine noun ends in ya, then it will also take ye. Finally, if the feminine noun ends in a soft sign, then it will take a longer e sound in the dative singular. Here's a quick task for you to practice putting nouns into the dative case. So on the right we have a list of nouns in the nominative singular, which you can put into the dative in the following sentences. So feel free to pause your video to think through the answers. I'm just going to start going through them now. So today I gave my son my old car. Today is сегодня in Russian. Я отдал, I gave away. And then мою прежнюю машину. So машина is car, прежний is former or previous, and мой is my. So the word сын is a masculine hard ending noun, and therefore it adds у, сыну. Сегодня я отдал сыну мою прежнюю машину. Second sentence, I'm going to grandma's. So we've got the word бабушка, and hard ending feminine nouns take the ye in the dative singular, so that's я иду к бабушке. Я иду к бабушке. Next, my dog likes music, so моей, that's my, and then собака. Here we have another hard ending feminine noun, нравится музыка. So in the dative that will just be собаке. Моей собаке нравится музыка. They approached the museum. Они подошли к музею. Они подошли к музею. We went shopping. Мы ходили по магазинам. Магазинам. Now, магазины was in the plural, so I should have mentioned to put that into the dative plural. Магазины goes to магазинам. I wrote a letter to my sister. Я написал письмо моей сестре. I need to call my aunt. Now remember that's in the plural, so мне надо звонить тетям. Мне надо звонить тетям. This table shows you the declension of personal pronouns into the dative case. As you'll see over the next few slides, personal pronouns in the dative are very frequent and therefore important to learn in Russian. They are used mostly in expressions of feeling and emotion, as we can see in the following examples. Мне холодно. I'm cold, or it is cold to me. Мне холодно. Ему нравится читать. He likes to read. Ей надоело работать. She is bored of working. Им хотелось танцевать. They felt like dancing, or they fancied dancing. We're going to look at how to say I like something in Russian. Now you would use the verb нравиться, and this verb governs the dative case, meaning that the nouns and pronouns it is used with will need to be put into the dative. So let's look at how to use this verb. We'll start with a straightforward sentence. I like this book. So you would first translate it in the English as literally, to me it pleases this book. Мне нравится эта книга. Now нравится changes according to the thing that is pleasing to you, or the thing that you like. So because it's singular, you would use нравится, it pleases. And then it's always мне in the dative, to me. Мне нравится. Эта книга is in the nominative because it's the subject of the sentence in Russian, even though in English it's the object. So that's why it can be a bit confusing, because you kind of have to change around the sense to translate it. So let's take a look at another example. You like dogs. So it would be to you, тебе. They please dogs. Тебе нравятся собаки. So this is where it gets a bit confusing, because if the thing that you like or the thing that is pleasing to you is in the plural, then the verb нравится needs to go to the plural нравится. So it pleases нравится, or they please нравится. Тебе нравятся собаки. You like dogs. Again, собаки is in the nominative because it's the subject in Russian. He likes you. So now it's going to get a bit interesting. To him, you please, and then we won't, that's in brackets, you'll see it in a second. So ему, to him, нравишься, нравишься. So literally you please, or you are pleasing to him. Ему нравишься, and then we just don't really add in the ты, but that's the subject in Russian. Ты нравишься ему. He likes you. Then you like me. So nравлюсь is going to be I please. And then to you, we're going to use the вы form. So to you, I please. Вам нравлюсь. Вам нравлюсь. And then in brackets, я. But again, you wouldn't really add that. And finally, they like to work. So if the thing that you like is a verb, or to do something, then it will be in the infinitive, and нравится will be the, as we saw in the first example sentence, just it pleases, нравится. So it pleases them, or it is pleasing to them, to work. Им нравится работать. Им нравится работать. To them, it is pleasing to work. So it's a bit confusing to get your head around the word order. If you've studied Spanish, you might notice the similarity between me gusta, because that works in the same way as this pretty much. So you can think of it like that. If not, hopefully this has helped you to understand how the verb nравится works. So we're going to look at some more examples in the next slide. Carrying on from this, we still have the verb нравится and понравится, but we're going to introduce a new verb, надоедать and надоесть, which means to grow tired or bored of. On the right, I've just declined the personal pronouns with these verbs as a reminder of how they decline. Now let's look at some examples. Ему нравится смотреть телевизор. So remember, it's нравится because it's followed by the verb in the infinitive. So it pleases him to watch TV. Мне нравишься. You are pleasing to me, meaning I like you. Ей нравятся собаки. Does she like dogs? Now, надо едать and надо есть works in a very similar way to нравиться. However, it is more commonly used, it is almost always used actually in the past tense. So you would use the perfective надо есть. So, just as we saw with нравится, you would use the third person singular, it bores you. Надоело вам. And you use that when it's followed by either the verb in the infinitive or a noun that is neuter. As you might be aware, verbs work a bit differently in the past tense, and for more information I have another lesson on verbs in the past tense that you can look at. So they decline according to gender and whether it's singular or plural. So let's look at our example sentences. Вам надоело работать. Did it bore you to work? Meaning, are you tired of working? Мне надоела школа. The school became boring to me. I'm sick of school. And remember, надоело needs to be feminine because the thing that is boring you is школа, which is feminine. Вы мне надоели. So вы is a plural pronoun, so надоели is in the plural. Вы мне надоели. Or ты мне надоел. And that's in the masculine singular. You became boring to me. So it's quite harsh. So that's how надо есть works. It's sort of like нравится, just the past tense equivalent. Нужный and надо are both words that are used to express need in Russian. So the difference between them can be confusing for learners. The main difference is this. Надо should only really be used with verbs in the infinitive. However, in spoken Russian, you will hear it used to refer to nouns as well. Нужный is an adjective and it is used in the short form to express need. Short form adjectives are something I will cover in another lesson, so the important thing to remember here is that these forms, нужен, нужна, нужно, and нужный, must agree with the nouns that they are referring to. For example, мне нужен телефон. I need a phone. And because телефон is masculine in Russian, you would use нужен. Ей нужна машина. She needs a car. And because машина is feminine, you would use нужна. Нам нужно узнать. We need to find out. Because it's a verb, you would use the neuter. And тебе нужны друзья. You need friends. Because friends is plural, you would use нужны. So нужный can be used with both nouns and with verbs in the infinitive. When you want to use it with a verb, you must use the neuter form нужно. For example, нам нужно поговорить. We need to have a chat or to speak. In comparison to тебе нужен велосипед. You need a bike. And надо should only be used with verbs in the infinitive. So, for example, тебе надо есть. You need to eat. Here is a list of common constructions which are used with the dative case. These are useful to know and to be aware of, but we won't spend too much time focusing on them today. I'll just read through them to show you how they're pronounced. So we have весело, meaning joyful or fun, and when used with the dative, it can mean that someone is having fun or enjoying themselves. Ему весело. He's having fun. Грустно, the T is silent. Грустно, and it means it is sad. When used with the dative, мне грустно, it means I am sad. Жарко, it is hot. Тебе жарко, you're hot, in the temperature sense. Лучше means better or it is better. Нам лучше can mean we're better off, we feel better, and it can also be used to say we'd better do something or we should do something. Нам лучше. Скучно, means it is boring. Im skучно means they are bored. And the ch here can be pronounced as either a hard ch or a soft sh. The hard ch is more common with the younger generation, skучно. Стыдно means it is embarrassing or shameful. Мне стыдно means I'm embarrassed or ashamed. Удобно can mean convenient or comfortable. So ей удобно can mean it suits her or she is comfortable. Холодно means it is cold. Тебе холодно means you are cold. Хуже, the opposite of лучше, means worse. So мне хуже means I feel worse or I'm worse off. Жаль can mean sorry or it is a pity, and мне жаль is a common expression for I'm sorry or I feel sorry for you. Мне жаль. Обидно means it is offensive or insulting, but when it's used with the dative тебе обидно, it can mean you're hurt. Finally, пора means it is time. So to say мне пора or нам пора, it would mean it's time for us to do something. Мне пора уйти. It's time for me to go. Нам пора есть. It's time for us to eat. Now we have another exercise for you to practice declining pronouns into the dative case. So I'll just start going through the answers now. The first sentence, кажется, will need you in the dative. Тебе весело. Кажется, тебе весело. You seem happy. The second sentence, she likes football. So it would be ей нравится футбол. Ей нравится футбол. We were happy. To us it was joyful. Нам было весело. Нам было весело. Скажи to him, which would be ему. Скажи ему, что случилось. Скажи ему, что случилось. Tell him what happened. They like to play tennis. Им нравится играть в теннис. I'm sick of this song. Мне надоела эта песня. I'm helping Grandma and Grandpa. So it's a hard A, which would go to Е. Я помогаю бабушке и дедушке. I'm sick and tired of you. Ты мне надоел. Без тебя, without you, ей грустно. Без тебя ей грустно. She is sad without you. And finally, я скажу вам то, что знаю. Or я скажу тебе то, что знаю. So excellent job if you got those correct. The last thing that we're going to cover today will be prepositions that govern the dative case. We've already come across k and по quite a lot today, and I'm going to talk about them in detail over the next few slides, but for now we'll just look at the other prepositions here. So благодаря means thanks to or owing to. For example, thanks to you I can speak Russian would be благодаря вам я могу говорить по-русски. Благодаря вам. So that's вам is in the dative case, thanks to you. And then the other prepositions here work in the same way. Вопреки, so despite or contrary to, and whatever it's despite would be in the dative case. So подобно, like or similar to, and whatever it's like or similar to would be in the dative. Finally, согласно, in accordance with. This is a more official kind of thing that you would say, and whatever it's in accordance with would be in the dative case. The preposition k in Russian can most commonly be translated as towards or to. Here we have a list of the primary uses of k, which is always followed by nouns in the dative case. The principal use of the preposition k is to express the idea of approaching, of going towards something or someone. For example, Они подходили ко мне. They approached me. Она подходит к мосту. She is going towards the bridge. The second use of к is in combination with words that express attitude or feeling. For example, интерес к, an interest in. Любовь к, love for. Ненависть к, hatred of. Отношение к, attitude towards or relation to. Жалость к, pity for. Равнодушие к, indifference towards. And уважение к, respect for. The third use of к is in miscellaneous expressions such as к сожалению, unfortunately, к тому же, moreover or besides, к счастью, fortunately, к моему удивлению, to my surprise, and лицом к лицу, face to face. К is also the primary way that you would express going to someone's house. For example, to say let's go to yours or to your place, you would say давай пойдем к тебе, or к ему, to his place, к ей, to hers, and so on and so forth. So here we have я иду к брату, I'm going to my brother's house or my brother's. And finally, к can also be used to express towards in a temporal sense. So for example, мы придем к вечеру, we'll arrive towards the evening. There are certain verbs which are almost always followed by the preposition к and the dative case. Here is a list of the most common ones. Относиться, отнестись к. Подходить, подойти к. Приближаться, приблизиться к. Привлекать, привлечь к. Привыкать, привыкнуть к. Прислоняться, прислониться к. Присоединяться, присоединиться к. And стремиться к. The preposition по, in combination with the dative case, can have a fairly broad range of meanings. We'll take a look at the most common ones here. First, по can be used to express a long or down in a spatial sense. For example, он идет по улице. He is walking along or down the street. Second, по can also mean in various directions, which is often translated as around. For example, бродить по городу, to wander around the city or town. Она ходит по комнате. She is walking around the room. Third, по is often used to express a means of communication and can be translated as by in this context. For example, по телефону means by telephone. По почте is by post. Fourth, if you want to specify a subject area or a field of expertise, then you can use по to mean in or on the subject of. For example, урок по истории, a history lesson or a lesson in history. Lastly, when you want to express regular occurrence at a certain time, then по is used with the dative plural. For example, по вторникам means on Tuesdays. По вечерам is in the evenings. So these are the primary uses of the preposition по followed by the dative case. On the right, you'll see a blue box. This contains verbs that are often followed by по and the dative. Скучать, по, followed by the dative, means to miss somebody or something. Стрелять, по, followed by the dative, means to shoot at. Судить, по, followed by the dative, means to judge by. And тосковать, по, followed by the dative, means to long for or to yearn for. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this lesson useful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section and don't forget to like and subscribe.